Hey everyone, in today's episode, I'm going to get into the Central Coast property market overview. The reason I do this is because I have so many Sydney-siders I cannot even tell you that reach out and mention the Central Coast to me. And a lot of people buy very blindly around the Central Coast. So in today's episode, I'm going to actually get into a bit more about what's going on in the Central Coast market for people that don't understand it, and the areas I actually genuinely look to buy in. So in today's episode, I'll get into a few things. First things first, where we're at. Secondly, what's driving the market. Thirdly, the region market conditions. And then finally, the best regions to buy in. So first things first, where we're really at in the Central Coast market is, this is my property clock that came out in October. Now, take this with a grain of salt because I'm telling you right now, the Central Coast would be at the 6 o'clock mark right now by the time this video airs. And it is at that for sure because I know that because there's suburbs that are already have broken the trend line. The median part has basically just broken the trend line, and the actual, should I say, parts that are waiting to catch up are about to break the trend line. So the general market is at the 6 today. So don't be confused by this. This is my old property clock. It is at the 6 o'clock mark today. But the reason I want to show you this is because I want to show you back then in early October where it was all at the time. So put Central Coast at the 6 o'clock mark. That's where the Central Coast market is at today. Now, what's driving the market in the Central Coast? Now, first things first, number one is definitely affordability. The Central Coast itself is affordable for practically a lot of people that already live there, and it's affordable for a lot of people moving there. A lot of Sydney-siders move there. So you can see here, this is just Avoca in the background. There's tons of people from Sydney that buy an Avoca to give you an idea. They can all afford it. No surprises. Lifestyle. Lifestyle's a massive thing here. The Central Coast really is a very much so good lifestyle area. It's commutable to the beach within about 20 minutes, pretty much from wherever you live in the Central Coast. People love the ocean. There's some great, bike tracks, national parks around there too, for people that even don't like the beach, but like just sort of the trees as well. So that's another thing you've got, I'd say, going on there in the Central Coast as well. Lifestyle's a massive thing. You've got the lakes even as well there too, even in the upper parts of the Central Coast. So it's really a good lifestyle for everyone in the region. Increasing demographics / employment. The reason I say demographics and employment is because the Central Coast itself does have quite a substantial growing job market in certain areas. So I'll give you a few good examples. So one is around the Gosford sort of CBD area. That's one area that has very good job growth. And the other is between Tuggerah and Lake Haven, particularly around those areas. There's a lot of job growth in that area. And you could argue even Terrigal, Erina, and probably the entrance sort of area for sort of lifestyle and other sort of just general things is doing quite well as well. So there's a lot of employment going on there. And because of that, the demographics are increasing. And to add to this, facilities and infrastructure as well is improving substantially in these areas as well. So you've obviously got the transport orientated plan that's increasing that. You've got government initiatives of both council, state government and federal government level. They're increasing these things here. The 5% deposit schemes in terms of affordability is only making that even more prevalent, should I say. But these areas here, demographics, employment, facilities, infrastructure, there's certain parts of the Central Coast that actually have this very well done. So those areas specifically are doing very well because of what's going on in the wider market, and because at the end of the day, people live in areas that they need to live. If there's employment, infrastructure and facilities there and a good lifestyle and affordability, there's no reason for people not to live there, especially if there's employment there, because people need to live where they can afford, and not only where they can afford, but also where they can actually get a job to live as well. And that's a thing a lot of people forget, but that's really what's going on in the Central Coast market, and that's what's driving the Central Coast property market at the moment. So look, what I've done here is I've broken down basically some different sort of surrounding regions of the Central Coast because it's very spread out. So the first region I'm going to get into is Gosford surrounds. So first things first with Gosford, there's strong demand from many Sydney city workers, solid family homes in demand from established families, and demand from developers close to train lines and town centres. So what you'll see here is Gosford is very commutable, or the surrounding suburbs of Gosford. And I'm talking about your Coolawong, Point Clare, right out to probably Erina, the ones probably in North Gosford, Narara, probably all those sorts of suburbs carry on. They're all very easily commutable for Sydney city workers. I mean, it's only about an hour train ride in. A lot of them also do work hybrid, so generally a 2 and 3 or 3 and 2. Very common. Because of that as well, you've got very good family homes in some of these locations in demand from established families. A great example of that is Point Clare, Point Frederick, East Gosford. Those areas are very in demand for those sorts of people. The developers are very much so hitting up, I'd say, around the Gosford CBD and probably East Gosford. Though the town centres, particularly of each of them, are in very high demand because a lot of those areas you can now put unit blocks in and to a very good level. The ones around Gosford Station, you got high rises of 10 plus stories going in. The accessibility and facilities are playing a large part. So, I mean, these areas I'd argue would have as good facilities as most parts of Sydney because you got the hospital and you got all the other, should I say, state government administration roles here as well. If you can pick anything up under $1 million in any of these suburbs, it's doing exceptionally well. They're very in demand though, so there's a lot of competition at that mark. So don't be surprised if you see something listed there and you've got 20 or 30 people at an open home. That is what's going on at the moment. I think where the good opportunity is in flipper style homes, people are just lazy as shit these days and they don't want to lift a finger. They just want to walk in and turn everything on. Whereas, I mean, you could spend $20,000, $30,000 and pick something up really easily and make $100,000 off doing that. But people are just lazy. So if you're happy to do something like that, there's real good opportunity in that. Very strong results in East Gosford and Point Clare. I've been talking about East Gosford for a while. I didn't talk about Point Clare, but it's because I still thought Point Clare was a little bit overpriced. I think it's even more overpriced now for what it is, but East Gosford is still good opportunity. So that's the Gosford and surround sort of area in the Central Coast and what's going on there at the moment. The other area I want to get into is the Woy Woy Umina Beach sort of area. So it's a whole peninsula basically down sort of the southern Brisbane water to Broken Bay Peninsula I'm talking about there. That's what I'm talking about. Particularly strong demand for waterfront dwellings. I saw and had waterfront dwellings exchange here. I mean, literally waterfront for $1.6 to $1.7 million, believe it or not, with a deep waterfront. They're not a shallow waterfront, genuine deep waterfront that you can put a jetty in. Back 6 months ago, that does not exist anymore. Most of them are 2 million plus now. Strong demand for dual income dwellings with rear lane access. Very popular among, I'd say, particularly your Umina Beach. Some parts of Blackwall really popular as well. Those sorts of areas, they're quite in demand. They rent very well as well. So a lot of your people buying companies and trusts and that kind of thing are buying these dwellings now. Many original dwellings being flipped for profit. So again, you've got a lot of you got both brick and tile here and actual weatherboards, funny enough, but a lot of your actual people that are buying these, should I say, dwellings are flipping them and making substantial profits. I'm seeing people pick these up for like $1 million, flipping them, selling them for 1.6 to 1.8, spending $100,000 on them in doing it in 12 months. So it's crazy. Dwellings close to public housing are still harder to sell. So for people that don't know this, don't buy the here blindly because you won't know where it is. Don't look at microburbs from because that's 2016 data. A lot of it has actually been sold off. So there's some pockets there that people don't know of that are very good opportunities where all the public housing sold, particularly between 2017 and 2022. There hasn't been much selling off really in the last probably 2 to 3 years, but in the late 2010s and early 2020s there was. There's good opportunities are becoming harder to find, and it's because Woy Woy, I think, is only from memory 53 minutes into Sydney CBD on the express train. So, I mean, if you're going, you could even argue go to Chatswood or somewhere like that as well. Some people work there as well that live in Woy Woy, and some even work in Hornsby, which is even less of a distance. I think that's literally one stop on the express train from Woy Woy to give you an idea. So a lot of these areas are in quite strong demand. There's been strong results in Booker Bay and South Umina. So South Umina is specifically close to the beach side of Umina. It's quite a big suburb. You're getting sales there above 1.5 and some above 2 million you're seeing in the last few months now. So that's going to continue because, I mean, for what you get here is quite good compared to what you get in Sydney. Like if you look at the northern beaches, for the same dwelling, it would probably be $3 to $3.5 million, and you're still picking this up for like 1 to 1.5 in a lot of circumstances. So those areas that have done up properties are getting 1.5 to 2 mil plus. So that's my update of the Woy Woy Minor Beach area. The next area I want to get into is probably the cheapest area of, I'd say, the Central Coast that I consider buying in. So that's a Lake Haven and surround. So it's pretty much you kind of Toukley around probably to San Remo kind of area, and then probably out to Canmore sort of area there, you know, your that kind of area. So it's sort of your western sort of Tuggerah Lake sort of area. What's really driving Lake Haven surrounds is affordability in very much so is driving, and the reason for that is because you've still got stuff that's actually sub 800k here, and stuff that's also sub $1 million, still genuinely achievable here. But for our sub 800k, really the demand is extremely fierce. So that's probably not going to exist for very long. I think by the end of the year there won't be really anything worth buying under 800k. So for everyone buying there, I mean, it's a very, very good buy if you can get under 800k, and it's a good dwelling in the right location now. But there's still strong demand for ones up to $1 million as well. As I said, all that area is very, very in demand, especially with the transport and facilities you've got. Close to beaches, close to the lake, close to everything you need, really. What I'd say is vacancy rates are starting to fall again. And funny enough, even with granny flats becoming more common in the area, vacancy rates are still falling. There's not enough homes in this area. So if you're someone who just wants to buy one house and then put a granny flat on, it's a very good location to do that, because vacancy rates are still falling and there's plenty of granny flats being put up regardless of it. So I mean, very good opportunities here for anyone like that who wants to do something like that. Opportunity in neighbouring suburbs to main centres. Strong results in Canmore and Gorokan. So, I mean, the real centres here is really Lake Haven. It's the surrounding suburbs that really are doing well there. That's where the main suburbs are. And Canmore and Gorokan have had sales above $1 million as of recently, which is crazy for these areas. So it's just showing you that there's so much strong demand in this area. If you're in a suburb neighbouring these and it's the right pocket and you can pick it up for a decent price, you're doing very well. I saw, a property in Gorokan that I thought would sell for $770, $780, sold for $840 in the other day, and that was crazy. I couldn't believe it. So, I mean, Lake Haven surrounds, this is the most affordable pocket, and there's a lot of demand and great opportunity here. So that's my summary of the Lake Haven and surrounds region of the Central Coast. Let's get into the Tuggerah / the entrance and surrounds. So what I'm really talking about is if you line up Wyong Tuggerah and follow the south side of, should I say, Tuggerah Lake around to the entrance in that area, that's what I'm talking about in this area. So this really is possibly one of the last affordable oceanfront / waterfront locations in the Sydney Basin region. It's practically the only one where you'll get, I mean, close to a lake, close to employment centres and the beach, all within about 5-10 minutes, that you can genuinely pick up for under $1 million still. It's the last one really in the Sydney Basin region. So, I mean, really here what you need to know is there's strong demand for dwellings under 900k, and there's many established Sydney families with children moving into these suburbs between this region. Now, the reason for this is because what they see is you've got work very close by, you've got transport close by, you've got the beach close by, and both public, primary, Catholic and private schools all close by to here. Now, generally when you think of the most expensive areas in an area, in a city, you generally line up wherever the water is and wherever the CBD is and the jobs are, and what is in between generally is the most expensive suburbs. If you look at Sydney, Bellevue Hill is right between Bondi and, should I say, Bondi Beach and the CBD, or you could argue Mossman is right between Manly and the CBD as well. Now, you look at Melbourne, you've got probably, I'd say Chirac is right between, and Kooyong is right between the CBD and Brighton Beach, most popular beach. Perth's another good example. Dalkeith, I mean, Claremont, all those suburbs, Mossman Park, right between Cottesloe, right between Perth CBD. You could even argue, I mean, probably Brisbane. I mean, Brisbane, you've got, I'd say, you know, because Brisbane's the river, but where is close to the employment hubs? Your inner north and inner east. So you'd argue your Hawthorn is close to the CBD, you know, Cannon Hill, it's close to, you know, I'd argue probably the South Brisbane precinct as well on the river. Same as New Farm. It's right next to Fortitude Valley, the CBD. You could argue even probably Hendra and those sorts of other areas that have employment. That's what happens. So furthermore, in these areas, Increasing demographics are further improving, as is employment. There's no surprises here. I've just mentioned to people before, this area is close to employment hubs and it's close to the water. That's why. And there's great opportunity in suburbs on the southern end of Tuggerah Lake. So if you line up, anywhere from Berkeley Vale to sort of Shelley Beach, Bateau Bay, all those areas have great opportunities at the moment, and they're going to go up substantially in value because people know that. Particularly strong results in both Killarney Vale and Longjetty. There's places in Killarney Vale that are selling for above 1.5 million. Same in Longjetty. I was picking up stuff here for easily there's even stuff sub 850 towards the late sevens. Actually, it was in Killarney, and I was picking up stuff in Longjetty. I kid you not, for a flat million, even sometimes a little bit less. And this is both 3 to 6 months ago, but they just don't exist anymore. But this is going to continue in suburbs like that because of where they are and the opportunities you've got in these areas. So that's my update for the Tuggerah to the entrance sort of region. The final area I want to get into is Avoca to Terrigal / Wamberal, and this is really your top end of the Central Coast. So, this area was kind of lagging a little bit, but it's now starting to turn the corner and prices are starting to pick up. And it's because more expensive homes are starting to come to market, and there's a possible record sale in this region. It may even sell for $25 million. So, for people that aren't from sort of New South Wales or Sydney region, that is insane. You could pick anything up in any other city for that. There's going to be stuff that is going to possibly sell in the 20 mils, possibly 25 in the Central Coast. It may have already sold, it's just not come out, but that it is for sale, I know, right now. There's intense competition in this area for homes under 1.5 million. If you can get anything in this area for under that, you're doing very well. And I'm not saying anything that is well located and is the right home, I'm saying, right? Many northern Sydney families in the market to buy here. So the reason for that is a lot of people from the North Shore and Northern Beaches like this area. It's quite similar to a lot of parts of the Northern Beaches and Middle Harbour over here, some parts as well. So people like that, and the lifestyle is excellent. It is literally less than half the price for a comparative suburb, to give you an idea. So that's the reason they like it. It's still within reasonable an hour and a half or so drive of Sydney. So if someone's working hybrid, people can still do it. That's the reason. There's large opportunity in flipper-style homes in lesser-known streets. So a lot of people want to buy the bride street of the suburb. There's bridesmaid streets that people don't look at that have excellent opportunities here, and people tend to ignore them. So just don't get confused by what's going on in terms of that. There's great opportunities in a lot of these locations. So, it's really good to see. But that's where the opportunity is now. Also, there's been some very strong results lately in both Wamberal and Copacabana, places selling for above $3 million. Don't be surprised if you see some in Wamberal and the, oceanfront part of it that start to sell for 5, 6, 10 in the coming, weeks and months, because when the market picks up, people who are in the market to sell or thinking about it for the last 12 start to sell on the top end, because those people don't need to sell at the bottom. They'll just wait till the market picks up, and it bumps the sale prices of the suburb up. So that's what's going on in this region of the market at the moment. So genuinely, the Central Coast is genuinely at the 6 o'clock mark in the interim and the macro, part of the market. But really, what the biggest question people will ask now is, what are the best places to buy on the Central Coast? So I'm going to break it into a couple of different price points. So the first one I'll start up with is sub $1 million. So I've got a few areas: Lake Haven surrounds, Tuggerah the entrance, and Gosford surrounds. So the reason I write Lake Haven surrounds here is because you still pick it up for around the 800K mark. That will not last long, as I said. Surrounding suburbs of Lake Haven, if you can do that in the right street and a decent dwelling, you're doing very well. Especially if you can do sub $1 million in Tuggerah to the entrance, the south side of, particularly Tuggerah Lake, and also Gosford surrounds, particularly like East Gosford and the suburbs around that. If you pick that up sub $1 million, you're doing extremely well as well. So for around 800K, Lake Haven surrounds, under $1 million, Tuggerah the entrance, Gosford surrounds, they're all doing very well. That's where you'd want to buy. For under 1.25 million, Gosford surrounds 2 and Tuggerah / the entrance, Gosford surrounds, I'd say, a little bit more of the top end. So it's your good parts of, I'd say, probably East Gosford, your right streets probably of Gosford as well. Probably also, I'd say, I mean, the development part of Gosford is very good, and some parts of Point Clare and Coolawong are quite good for that. Total the entrance, the top end, so it's probably your Blue Bay, Tawoon Bay, Baddo Bay, I mean, Long Jetty, the right streets of that are very good. You need to know what you're doing there because it's not all parts of the suburbs I've just mentioned, it's particular parts. So for under 1.25 million, yes, you will not get a waterfront house like this in that area, but I mean, for under 1.25 million, those are really good opportunities in saying that. For under 1.5, I'd specifically, and this is the last area I will say, because, I mean, if I'm going to 2 million, I'd be taking it to probably Sydney or Newcastle or definitely to Melbourne for investing. Because I still think I can actually get you in at that. So, or even living, I can genuinely still get you in at that but for under 1.5, it's the Avoca to Terrigal and Wamberal. So if you can pick up anything under 1.5 in the right streets, you're doing very well. I've still picked up stuff here in literally, I mean, Wamberal, Terrigal, and even North Avoca, believe it or not, and Avoca for under 1.5 million, which is insane. That will not be the case. That probably will not exist in 3 to 6 months' time. So if you are someone serious about, the time is now. And if you're someone serious in any of these Central Coast markets in the right suburbs with any of the budgets from about 800K plus right up to $1.52 million to give you an idea, and you're serious about getting the Central Coast market and you're looking for a buyer's agent, I strongly suggest you reach out via www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. Look, what happens here is you book a time with me. It sends an email invite to both of our emails and blocks a time out in your calendar. And from there, I give you a call to your mobile number, so a phone call. And what happens is it runs for about half an hour. You tell me what you want to do and want to achieve. I'll give you some options and we'll formulate a strategy from there and get the purchase done. Now, if you're someone sitting on the fence, maybe you might be looking in 3 to 6 months' time. You might have your reservations about buyer's agents. What I'd suggest to do is look through more of my videos, look at some of the reviews I've got, and not only that too, just have a chat with me because you understand how much I care and how much I know about the market. And not only that too, but I'd say the strategy itself is way more important than the purchase itself, because if you stuff up the strategy, you're going to get the purchase wrong. And if you get the purchase wrong, it doesn't really matter what you've done. You've actually stuffed it up, and that's hundreds of thousands of dollars, maybe 50 to 100,000 minimum that you've actually lost on the buy, and it's hundreds of thousands of dollars, possibly millions if you hold it for 20, 30 years in the future. So the strategy itself is more important than the purchase. So anyone serious or looking to get in the market, I strongly suggest you reach out via www.compoundinvest.com.au/inquire. Look, please subscribe to the channel, and I thank everyone for watching this episode. I'll see you in the next one.